Good afternoon, welcome to Market Wraps. Stuart Williamson here at the helm. This week, furnish or not to furnish? What is the answer? Now, obviously it's what's best for landlords, isn't it? I mean, we're in charge. We should decide whether to furnish our rental properties or not. No, that's not the answer. The key consideration for landlords should always be that of the tenant. What they want is far more important than what we want. And that's where you'll find the correct answer to this question. After all, the number one thing a landlord wants from a rental property is returns. And you don't get any if your property is left unfilled. Personal circumstances can enter into the mix, but it should always be about a tenant. A flat in central London, for example, would generally have a different type of tenant to a house in the outer reaches of the city. So you want to present the property accordingly. Do your homework in all aspects of property, and when it comes to choosing whether to let your property out furnished or not, the advice is no different. Do your homework, speak to other people, see what they're doing, speak to agents, speak to people who are selling the property. That being said, there are still clear pros and cons to each, regardless of which you choose, finished or unfinished. So let's take a look at those now. Benefits of letting a finished property. Your tenants will save money on purchasing expensive items. They won't need to. You'll save money moving stuff out of the property if it's already furnished. Furnishings will be reused again for another tenancy. A percentage of the cost of replacing and disposing of old items is tax deductible. You may get a better price for your rental if you offer it as furnished. So demand could be higher if the market deems furnished properties attractive in your area. Benefits of letting an unfinished property is your outlay is going to be less. You don't have to pay for a property package. If you're not furnishing the property, you don't buy £3,000, £4,000, up to £10,000. You get no sleepless nights over damages or replacing items due to wear and tear. There's no need to insure any furniture the tenant brings with them. Perfect for tenants moving with their own furniture, so they don't have to shell out for storage. Tenants will generally be happier surrounded by their own furniture. Could well attract tenants looking for a longer, more stable tenancy. No need to clear the property should you choose to sell, which will cut out your costs. It's vitally important to take advice of local experts regarding the current market in the area, and there are a few assumptions you can make over the types of tenants who will be drawn to the furnished, either a furnished or unfurnished property. So it's about the people trying to attract. So furnished rentals, people looking for short-term lets, possibly. Those looking to be close to work during the week, definitely. Corporate tenants who require a property for staff, clients, definitely. Overseas tenants, they will want that. A lot of overseas students now want very posh places. Young professionals looking to live in high-ticket areas, build to rent, that sort of thing. Unfurnished properties, benefits of that. Sometimes you get longer-term tenants because they make you feel like it's their home and they want to stay in it. Anyone who already owns their own furniture, they want an unfurnished one. Families, work-from-home people. Let's look at the real question then. What is best for tenants? That's who's really in charge. While some of the points mentioned in the advantages of landlords will be similar, there are some points that are tenant-specific. The benefits of renting a finished property: it's less expensive. You don't have to shell out on expensive furniture to put into your flat when you may move and find you don't like it again. It doesn't fit into the new one. It can be a bore at the best of the time having to buy furniture. Renting a finished property makes it easier. Greater flexibility. The choice to sort of leave your furniture behind, look for other places. It's highly convenient. Fully furnished properties of the greatest level of convenience. It's especially true if it's your first property and you're moving out from home perhaps. It's just a place you can walk into with your suitcase and that's it. Benefits of renting unfurnished property: it's more personal. That's a big one for many renters. Unless you are in the market for a high-end property with brand new furnishing throughout, nothing is going to match up to having your own items around you. Opting for an unfurnished home gives you a chance to really make it feel like a home. Potentially it's less expensive. Hey, how can that be? How can it be less expensive for both options? Well, if you're looking to rent long-term, then an unfurnished property could actually work out to be more cost-effective. Rental charges will generally be lower for the longer term, which will make buying your own furniture a less expensive option if you're going to rent for the longer term. Plus, you can always take your furniture with you. Even if you buy your next property, you can still take it with you. It's yours, isn't it? Fewer deposit worries. Let's face it, accidents happen. And if you do inadvertently spill coffee on the couch or manage to break the bed, wear out the washing machine, you'll often be liable to replace it in a furnished property or run the risk of losing your deposit. Opting for an unfurnished rental negates that worry, although you'll still have to replace your own stuff if you're very clumsy. Most properties come with white goods nowadays, so I think that's not that big a deal. I've read quite a few surveys that say having a furnished place commands a 6 to 7% better rent. From my experience and the specific markets we tend to work in and where our clients invest, which are city centres, city edges, ABC1 tenants, they work the best, and it does give you probably about 7% more rent, which is great. 2023 landlord rule changes for Wales. Things you need to know. This year there are new changes coming in for landlord and tenant law in Wales. It's been brought in by the UK and Welsh governments, and the new laws are set to take effect throughout 2023. If you're renting or if you're a landlord in Wales, you need to know about these things. So what are the new rules? It's the new Renting Homes Wales Act of 2016, which has only just come into force in 2022, and it's the final part of that. Basically what they are is the act is designed to improve conditions in Welsh rental properties along with how they're managed. It's also there to make the process of letting a property easier for landlords. In order to make these changes to landlord and tenant laws, there are some new processes that both landlords and tenants must be aware of and must follow. It's a fairly simple thing. Number one, tenants have got a new name, okay? They're no longer tenants. Under the Rental Homes Act, people living in rental properties are now contract holders, which is pretty weird. This is to make it easier to define who is entitled to live in the property if the circumstances of their tenancy change. For instance, if someone wants to leave the property and they're part of a joint tenancy, there is no need to end the contract that's currently in place and start a new one. Secondly, changes to the notice period. If landlords in Wales want to issue their contract holders with a no-fault notice, which you can still do in Wales, they will have to give at least 6 months notice if they want them to move out. A no-fault notice is where a landlord lets the people who are in a property know that they want them to leave, but not because they've breached the contract or done anything wrong. Previously, the notice period was 2 months. This is probably the biggest change in the whole thing, 2 months to 6 months. Other changes include what happens if a contract owner stops paying rent. Here the landlord can serve a possession order which has 1 month's notice. More serious rent arrears, which mean the notice period is reduced to 14 days. If they've breached their contract in a serious way, for instance, if the people in the property have behaved antisocially, the landlord can serve a possession order and start court proceedings the same day. Landlords might also consider taking out cover to protect themselves should things go wrong with a tenant. Another key point about ending a tenancy that contract holders and landlords should be aware of is that a contract holder must have lived in a property for at least 6 months before the landlord can give them notice to leave. This applies unless the contract holder has broken their contract. The landlord must also register with Rent Smart Wales and follow the deposit protection rules. Next point, fit to live in. The changes to landlord and tenant law as part of the Act also ensure that contract owners are paying a rent for a property that's safe and fit to live in. Landlords are responsible for ensuring that the property that is let out has fully operational carbon monoxide alarms and smoke detectors, that regular electricity safety tests are carried out, and that water, gas and electricity are all working properly. The structure of the property along with the exterior must be also kept in good condition. The introduction of occupation contracts is the next point. Tenancy agreements in Wales have been swapped out with occupation contracts. These came into effect on the 1st of December last year, and landlords must replace existing agreements with a converted occupation contract, so not a standard rental agreement. Under the Act, occupation contracts must include details such as names, addresses of the contract holders and landlords, along with the terms of the contract and any extra terms that have been introduced. So if you compare that to the rental review, which is going on in Parliament at the moment, and is the major part of the Conservatives' housing changes going forward, that is actually less onerous than the rental review. You've got better conditions, I think. So when it comes to buying property to rent out, doing it in Wales, that could be an added incentive. There we have it for this week. Thank you very much for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. It's a bit more of a user-friendly rather than market-orientated talk. It's just things that people need to know. I hope you did appreciate that, and I hope you do like it. Thank you. Bye-bye.